Yeah. I can think of one compound that I feel is maybe underrated, and that's halotestin.
Wait, hold on. Did he just say fucking Halo? Or is it just me? Are we trying to Chris Benoit this whole place?
The most overrated what did we do? The most overrated steroids? There we go. Yes.
What did we do?
And now we're going to do the most...
Skip's a big EQ lover on that one.
Underrated steroids. So we're going to have just some fun with this one. Maybe get some people angry. Who knows? If your favorite drug doesn't make the cut, we're sorry. It's still good if it works for you. Where do we want to go with this, guys? What is the most underrated, the most underutilized tool in our arsenal of anabolics?
Well, I think it's safe to say all of them are used and all of them are utilized.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys want to jump. I get mine out of the way right away if you want, because it's very easy for me. And some people will say, and you guys might say, well, that's not underrated. But I think it is based on how I feel. And you guys already know the answer that I'm going to say. I still say that there is no better steroid than Anavar.
Thank God. I thought he was going to drop some big nugget like going gung-ho for D-Bull or something ancient like that. But I'm happy Skip's on the same page with that after his whole EQ rant last week. See what
I think it is. I know. This is why this is a good topic.
So Skip, let me ask you a question then. Let me ask you a question. Why don't you just run a moderate test in a high Anavar cycle?
Because of the liver values and the fact that it's an oral. That's really the only reason. There's no other compound though that
I've never seen anybody's liver values thrown off by Anavar. It's usually your cholesterol and kidney values because it's more metabolized by your kidneys. I don't know why that keeps getting tossed around. Like if you check anybody's liver values when they're on Anavar, make them take 2 or 3 days off of training first. Don't do a hard leg day beforehand because they're going to be elevated anyway. You check that, you come back, and your liver values are fine. It's not really metabolized by the liver if you go into the literature.
When I start it, and not just start it like the first week, but when I'm on it, then I can go, I'll be in the middle of a set and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why my pecs feel like they're going to rip off on the contractile force is so.
And that's when you know you have the real stuff versus the fake stuff. If you're doing real Anavar, 50 to 75 milligrams feels like your whole pec is going to cramp up if you're doing chest. Or people will get the cramps in their shins if they're doing stair climber, things like that. Like, it's intense if it's real. And then you hear about guys doing 200 milligrams. You're like, oh, that was weak. Well, your stuff was either underdosed or it was fake. Because there is no way in hell when you're doing real Anavar that you can get up and walk the next day. If you did 200 milligrams of it, you'd be cramping up every time you took 5 steps.
It's just next level. Nothing makes... It's not like about a pump. I mean, I always get a good pump. I'd be depleted and on 0 carbs and I get good pumps. So I can't relate to the not getting a pump thing. Yeah. But the contractile force, the muscles contract so painfully. It's just...
And it's one of the safest compounds there is too. It's still used in medicine today. There's people on it that have burns or AIDS that are taking 5-10 milligrams of Anavar every day their entire lives without testosterone as a base, and they're fine. So that's one of those things that, hey, if you're going to start dabbling in this, it's definitely one of the safer compounds to use. I'd much prefer guys try Anavar before D-Ball, Halo, Tren, all those.
It's painful. It's brutal. It's like I'm going, I really hope I can't get another rep. I want out of this set now. It's just a different, it's just so obvious when I'm on it. And I respond so well to it. I've heard it from other people, but I'm speaking just, more for myself that it's just gold. If I responded like I do to Anavar to everything else, man.
What's funny is you look at his co-hosts here and you tell they're not buying it. They're like thinking, have I actually gotten real Anavar before? I've never felt that. But if you get the real stuff, you'll feel it. You'll know.
I'd be pretty happy, but I don't.
You'd be like the Mr. Potato Idaho State Classic champion.
Yeah,
by now?
I would be the bodybuilding champion for the 22nd floor of Parkline in West Palm Beach. Undisputed, too.
Andrew, you don't look super impressed by Skip's choice. I'm not sure if I'm feeling it either.
I mean, so here's the thing, and I don't like these episodes of most overrated, underrated, because I do think almost every compound has an application or use, with the exception of some of the garbage ones. Like I think the overrated well, like like the injectable D-ball, Tren, hexacarbolin, whatever mixtures that people are doing that are just driving their
Check drops,
blood pressures up, and
yeah,
possibly putting them in an early grave. In terms of we're doing most underrated, right? In terms of most underrated, it's one's so hard for me to answer because I just feel like there's an application for the majority of the common use compounds that we all use, but if I had to go with one, I guess I'm going to say, and it's probably not really underrated in most people's minds, but Masteron. I think Masteron can be used in any application.
Well, here's what I never got is people will sit there and say that Primo and Anavar is too weak, and they're like, won't run them. But then they'll turn around and run Mast, which is technically on paper weaker than both of the other compounds that were mentioned. Very, very, very similar DHT compounds. They're almost interchangeable with Primo and Mast. But a lot of the bros will just run Mast and act like that's fine when Primo is just a higher quality version of it, essentially. And anecdotally safer on hair, according to some people. I don't know how true it is, but I have heard about people just losing clumps of hair on Masteron when they were fine on Primo.
Off season, pre-contest. I think it could be used to help with estrogen. I think
it's highly rated though. I think
so that's where I'm.
So here, we got to look at here's what underrated, overrated is the social
really
context as of right now. And I'll say testosterone. Okay, I think that testosterone is highly underrated right now because guess what? It is an extremely powerful compound.
Boring.
That's why people underrate it. It's what we already produce. I think that people are shying away. Back when I started gear, everybody took a bunch of tests, and that was all you took was test, and then you took more test, and then after that you took more test, and then you added something else in. But nowadays people are ooh, you don't want to take testosterone because it's going to elevate your estrogen. It's going to.
Yeah, there are some random weirdos that are all about the Deca and Debo only cycles. And I will say everybody that I see that is pounding their chest over doing Deca only, none of them look that great. I talk about some old guys back in the 70s doing it that looked good. But then again, we don't even know if what they were getting was what they said they were getting back then. Everything we relied on was black market or some guy from the gym slipping you a package under your doorstep.
Be bad for you. There's going to be terrible things will happen. Don't use test. And in fact, I think that I suggested a test only cycle at 300 milligrams to start for your first cycle. And some dude trolled me for that.
Yeah,
how could he dare suggest a 300 milligram?
How could he dare suggest that you get your testosterone 10 times higher than it is naturally to start with and then scale it from there?
Testosterone cycle, Mr. Testosterone. That's me, Mr. Testosterone. 300 milligrams. It's going to.
And I consider Masteron kind of best way to explain it is I consider it more of an add-on. If someone says, I have a client that says, and they wouldn't say this, but I want.
Putting it that way, you add the Masteron to fill in whatever you can't get in test. So if you're running your test 750 and it puts your estrogen high to where you're getting side effects from that, you add the Masteron in and knock the estrogen back down and give yourself a little more anabolism on top of it. I think that's what he's saying. That's what makes sense. That's the smart way to design cycles nowadays, now that we have more information.
I take 3 compounds for this prep. I wouldn't consider Masteron one of those. I would give them combinations of 3 compounds, and then I would say if you wanted to add Masteron on it to make the test that much more efficient, then we could add Masteron. I don't count it as a primary anabolic. Do you guys?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
think it's
I
the
never have.
flavors.
I've
Yeah.
come around to
Can't
it.
just ignore it.
Yeah, I have.
You can't just like not include that in your anabolic load. That's like the guys that take orals and don't include it. They're like, yeah, I'm on a grab of stuff, no big deal. And then they find out they're on 3 different orals and 50 milligrams a day. Multiply that by 7. That's 350 each. That's another gram on top of what they told you. So yeah, it does add up. It does make sense to add that in there. Don't just discount things because you don't feel like including it.
I'm high on like a test Masteron NPP cycle.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think you can ride that into 8-10 weeks out from a show. You can switch over to Tren, pull the NPP out, and continue to ride it on into the contest. So that's why I think
completely.
That's the thing a lot of guys don't get is a lot of your gear is interchangeable. It's not what makes the biggest difference when it comes down to it. When you take 2 enhanced guys, usually the difference you see is, A, genetically, some people can get away with putting a lot less work in just because they were born that way. But B, the biggest thing is the training and the food. If you're not applying those 2 pillars, then the gear's not going to do shit. I see tons of guys at my gym that tell me they do all kinds of gear, or they have done it in the past, that barely look like they even go in the gym, let alone look like they're on something.
Yeah, that's why I think it's underrated, because I think up until recently, let's say up until about a year to 2 years ago, people thought of it as a prep only compound, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it was always neglected in the off season. And I think we're seeing now, especially with people's tendencies to want to stay drier, to not look as watery, to not get that, let's say deca bloat, that kind of stuff. I think people are seeing the applications that they can use Masteron for in an off season setting. And I think they're reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah.
So why could you not run Masteron all the time? It's a relatively innocuous compound. And I put that out there as kind of, I'm setting you guys up, because I say run Masteron, not necessarily at high dose, but run Masteron anytime you run tests, for that matter, because it's just making your test that much. It's like more bang for your buck without having to increase. Anytime you can get more, your free testosterone levels, even, you could argue even Proviron, because that's relatively innocuous as well. It's like, why? Yeah. Proviron at least is more expensive than Masteron.
I think this is the reason why, is because, especially when you're writing a cycle for a client, you don't want to give them like 8 different things they have to inject a week, right? Like, I think you want to try to keep
Unless
it, especially newer
in contest prep.
They're not
like at the very end. I could see.
I think I've got like 7 or 8 IFBB pros right now. Even people at that level do not want to be taking 14 different compounds a day in the off season. You know what I'm saying?
Some people do.
Like,
Boston
I'm thinking back to one time when I was training somebody, like a regular Gen Pop person in the gym, like 10 years ago. It was like a week out from a show, and she's like, "You take the steroids, don't you?" And I'm like, yes, I do, Lori. Yeah. She's like, "So, like, what? Once a week, you just like take a shot?" And I'm like, "Well, Lori, actually, today I've already taken testosterone prop. I've taken Tren, I've taken Masteron, I've taken Winstrol, I've taken Proviron. It was 2 weeks out. I'm taking Halo. I might add a little Anavar in later. I've taken my growth. I've taken insulin. If you want to add in the peptides like BPC 157 and melanotan, I'm like, I'm up to 14 drugs so far today. So yeah, I guess it's a little more than there's just that testosterone shot once a week." And she's like,
"Oh my God. Don't reach out.
Are you a drug addict?" Like, she's like, "You're so," but that actually was one of the things she said, "But you're always so calm." And I'm like, don't believe what you heard in the movies or what you see in the movies or posters or, like people are people. If you're an asshole and you add gear in, you're going to be more of an asshole. If you're a nice guy and just a regular citizen, you're going to be more of a nice guy and a regular citizen.
I just imagine having to tell your grandma you run all that and try to explain to her what they all do and have her not be appalled. Just put yourself in his shoes for 1 second and think about that one.
5 milligram tablets. Those are great, man. I gained a ton, and I kept a ton too. I didn't keep I kept about half of what I gained, which I gained 20 pounds, and then I was 10 pounds up when I was done with it. So, hey, but yeah, you know what? I think you're right that you guys are right. People don't want to like gain the water weight. They don't and they don't want the estrogen conversion. I think that nowadays the big focus lately has really, it's more advanced than it used to be. That nowadays people are really considering how they manage estrogen, and people are afraid to let their estrogen run high. I remember a time when people are like, "Hey, run your estrogen as high as you can, because that's going to help you grow muscle." And if you're
I'm pretty sure since probably 2018, everybody has been trying to run their estrogen as high as possible without having side effects. I'm not sure where he's getting that information from. I know that was an old school thing in like the early 2000s, was to try to crush it, but everybody knows better now, or should know better.
Nipple starts, hurting, then take a Novadex,
Yeah, I can think of one compound that I feel is maybe underrated, and that's
Okay.
halotestin.
Wait, hold on. Did he just say fucking Halo? Or is it just me? Are we trying to Chris Benoit this whole place?
I think halotestin, particularly not just in the pre-contest, the last couple days phase, but I'm talking like, here's one thing I like to do with people is I'll add halotestin in on, let's say, a day on a body part we're really trying to bring up, or a lift that we're trying to accomplish. Like, let's say they've been stuck at 295 on an incline Smith bench.
All right, I mean, I guess that makes sense in that context. I don't know why you wouldn't just use Anadrol instead of Halo, since Halo is known to have worse side effects with aggression and all that. I guess if you don't get that side effect of aggression and you feel okay on it mentally, I could see it. And you just take the aggression out in the gym, which I know that's why a lot of guys use it on contest prep, is more when they're low on calories and they're just tanked out energy-wise. They like running Halo to get the extra aggression back in the gym so they can make the most out of their workouts those last couple of weeks of contest prep. And some people say it gives you a drier look too. That's some of the reason why, but he's talking about using it in a off-season context, and I don't know why I agree with that 100%.
And we're just trying to get to like 12 reps or something like that. And they've gotten 10, 11, and then they lose a rep. Okay, let's throw in some halotestin, maybe some Anadrol that day. Let's stack the
Halo and
testosterone up so you
Anadrol
took your shot the
off-season.
day before, depending on what ester it is.
And the problem with that is a lot of people can't eat on it. It destroys their stomach. Anadrol and Halo both. In the off-season, probably not the best choice. I understand if you want to use it as a plateau buster, but I guess make sure you ate all your calories before going into the gym because you're not going to want to eat afterwards.